Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another Tools for Perseverance. I'm Dr. Jessica Wright, and today we're going to be talking about future planning. We've talked a little bit about goal setting in the past in the context of hope development. And as I look at the literature on some of the psychology behind what we understand is going on with us collectively, there is a loss that we have all experienced, which is the loss of being able to plan for the future. And so as I'm reading through the psychology literature, this is one that is really interesting to me, and that I was able to find a tangible thing for us to do to help us cope with the loss. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is about future planning, the plans that we had for the future and the plans that we're going to make. So I'll start off with a personal anecdote. We've got a house that we are building. We put, we've made plans, we've saved, we've set aside, we've been planning this for quite a long time. And this house there's been a lot of uncertainty as to whether or not it was going to get built. And it looks like they have started building our house. And so I was mentioning this to one of my psychology colleagues the other day, and she said how fortunate I am that I have, my family and I have a very tangible thing that we get to watch as it slowly builds, as it slowly gets built, as it slowly becomes a reality. And so we are just so excited that that is a possibility, that we get to watch it, the foundation get laid, the walls go up, and it to slowly but surely become, over the next couple of months, the home that we intend to live in. And so it is really fortunate, and my psychology friends and colleagues were giving me some of the literature on the loss that we have just experienced collectively in the ability to plan for the future. So I want to share this real quick. Future planning and uncertainty. So there's a little bit of a bit of a snarky or sarcastic quote here. I saw just a silly post from one of my friends that says, "Does anyone know if we will get through this together or not? Or if these times are certain or uncertain? No one is letting me know." It seems like all the messages that we're getting from our, from companies. There's a shoe brand that I like that has sent me an email telling me that we'll get through this together. There's, every television station, I swear my cell phone carrier has told me that they're here for me. And it's been a really unusual thing to see a lot of corporations come tell me how much they are here for me. And that's sort of become a trope that has been repeated over and over again. Will we get through this together or not? Yes, we are going to get it through it together. And these times are incredibly uncertain. I think, we have a level of uncertainty in this situation, not only because no one who is alive has been through it before, but also because the situation is evolving over time. And so as we understand more about the science of who is infected or who's planning to get infected, we have to change and adapt based on what's happening in real time. And that means that we can't for sure know some of the things that we used to be able to plan for. So I am a planner, and thankfully I've married someone who is a planner. And so last year in December, my wife bought me tickets for a play that was happening the following August. And so we got to have that experience of, planning for a date 9 months in advance, right? We had this lengthy time of planning for going to see a play live in the theater together, and that was something we really enjoy. We went to Rome last summer, and we got to plan that trip for years and prepare. We're the type of people in my family that we really like to plan and think about what's going to happen. So one of the things that we have lost is our ability to do that. So our ability to say what's going to come next. What is it that I'm personally hoping to do? The kids, it's not clear now whether or not they're going to be going back to school starting in the fall. Is my son going to be going back off to college? My wife's in graduate school. I occasionally teach classes in the evening at U of H. I have different seasons of things that we do. My church often goes on a regular we have a regular trip to Schlitterbahn just after Labor Day every year. We have these sort of traditions that we know that we're planning on and are a part of our life. And those have been put up in the air, right? They're uncertain at this point. So I wanted to share about learning small things and learning large things. This picture of a person learning to cook, I think we're going to get to it in a minute, but it appears it's popped up early on me. So it's one of the larger things, right? So a larger thing that you might be able to plan for. So here's what I've learned from the psychology literature is, when we can't plan for the things that we normally do, we have to replace those rituals that we plan for with new things, right? We have to replace those. We have to grieve the loss, I guess first. We have to grieve the loss of the plans that we have made, and then we have to make new plans and have things that are within our control and that we can make an effort at. So, one of the suggestions that we've talked about before, the different ways that tracking your progress can be really valuable. There was some really interesting, when I was looking in the literature on this, the interesting ideas about journaling and habit tracking. This was a very colorful version of, for a month looking at, they had written all the skills down on the side. Let's see if I can move my mouse in a way. So see, they've moved all of the skills. They've listed all the things that they want to accomplish here. And as they go through the month, they're tracking, they're making a note of exactly when they're doing the things that they have set as their goals. And this is a beautiful, they've done a very colorful version of this, right? A beautiful reminder of how that's going. So even these little things, right? So this is a small version of this idea, future planning for this month. I'm going to do blank. And so what I would encourage you is, in these blanks, I might list someone that you're going to reach out to every day. So perhaps you set a goal for yourself that you'll reach out to three friends that you haven't spoken to or in a week, right? Or perhaps like this month, that you want to spend a couple of hours outdoors. Any of the techniques that we've been talking about, and then tracking them over time. Another way of future planning is by investing in something that's going to be growing. So thankfully it's spring, and we have a very fertile environment that we live in, and so growing things is not too difficult. I always have a hard time. I do not have a green thumb, but I still participate in my church's garden, and we can actually do that through social distancing. We can be working in the garden and collectively growing some things in our community garden, and that is incredibly valuable. So planting seeds now that you're going to tend, and eventually they will become something something new, whether it's fruits and vegetables that you're planting and you get to harvest some green beans, or if it's flowers that you're planting that that it won't even bloom until June. This is a level of future planning, right? Growing a garden that is going to be incredibly valuable to us. So let's talk about our large and future planning in large ways. So I have a confused person. This person's apparently been up on the screen for a little while, but the person who's learning how to cook. There are, a lot of people right now that are starting to dabble in cooking. They've never, people who have never really spent much time cooking, and they're really learning a new skill. So I would encourage you, in a large way, what is a skill that you're planning to learn during this time, insofar as that it helps you plan something for the future, right? Have a tangible outcome. One of the better things about cooking and getting better at cooking is that it's a skill that not only you can enjoy, right, the fruit of it, right, the product of what you're doing, but it's also something that you can share. You can cook a meal for someone else and share it with them. You can if you've got other people in your household, you can be feeding your family, and it has this very pleasurable, tangible outcome in terms of learning a skill. Other skills that you might be learning, whatever they are, sewing, crafting, learning a language, learning a new set of exercises, all of these things are going to be great insofar as they are helping you achieve something you want to achieve. There's a lot of pressure right now to learn a new skill and to use this time productively. I would argue that putting pressure on yourself to do something just for the sake of needing to feel productive during this time, needing to feel anything during this time, in my understanding, is not going to be very valuable. We're going to have a lot of different emotions that are not within our control. And putting pressure on ourselves that we have to do something, we have to be learning a new skill, or that very terrible word should learn a new skill during this time. Let's throw that out of the equation, right? Should is not a helpful word. Instead, when we talk about learning a new skill, this is something that if you would like to start working towards something, planning for something that's going to happen in the future that you have in your control. There's so much that we don't have in our control right now, that future planning of things that we can actually have around us, skills that we can build ourselves, that's going to be very valuable to us and our mental health. And then lastly, I would argue that planning an event, especially a large, elaborate event, is going to be very valuable. So there was just, my son is 19, and there was just an event that happened online where they threw a digital prom for all our virtual prom for high school seniors, and it was hosted by some celebrities. This is one of the celebrities that has that television show, Some Good News, John Krasinski, and he hosted this prom. There were people, they got all dressed up, and they all joined together and joined live at this event, and there was DJs, there were famous singers that came by, and it was really exciting. So planning a large event with you, with your friends, with your family, with your network, with your people, planning an event and hosting it live is a way of future planning that you have control over, right? You all have control over who you reach out to, and whether or not you put something together and exactly how you wanted to put it together. So I would highly encourage you to plan for an event, plan for something fancy, plan for something that you get dressed up for, or plan for something, if not fancy, plans for something that you have to prepare for, that it takes time and effort to prepare for, because that level of future planning is going to give you that really nice reward in your mind, and that level of certainty that you have an element of control. We talked about the idea of agency being really important in terms of developing hope and for our psychological health. Agency is a feeling of control. So all of these ideas, planting a garden or tracking your goals that you've got, learning a new skill or planning for an event, all of this future planning is really about experiencing agency during a time of uncertainty, so that you understand what you do have control over, and the things that you do you can plan for in the future that you can create. So my questions for you for the chat box: what future planning loss will you grieve? So, for example, I was mentioning for me, we have 2 annual church events that are, a touchstone point in our annual lives, right? There's a parade in June that we always join. There's and then there's an all-church retreat that is incredibly important to us and incredibly valuable for building, community within our network. And so I'm grieving those losses. I'm going to miss those things. Those are important points for me and for my family and for my church. And then what small thing can I plan for? For me, there's some level of habit tracking in terms of gratitude practices that I'm trying to accomplish, especially with my kids. Trying to be in the moment with them, and with the little ones, not be stressed about their schooling, but instead being present with them. And then large thing that I'm planning for, there's a portion of our retreat that I always love where we have a talent show and a sing-along time, where we have different camp songs that we sing around a fire. It's very perhaps cliche, but is very heartwarming, right? It makes me happy. And so, one of the things that I am looking forward to is creating a virtual time for us to share that experience and to have a virtual sing along with everyone from my church. So, that's a large thing that I'm planning for, and that it's making me feel excited about an event coming up, and then like I have a level of control over, the planning elements to it. So, what about you? What are you planning for? What does your future planning look like, and how has it changed? I can't wait to hear what you have to say.